Hi guys, welcome back. So I've pretty much gone through and done all the wiring on the Torana now. So it's done. The only thing we've got left to run is the fuel pump wire. I've got to get another roll of small gauge insulation to run like conduit to run down the back of the car. Plus I've got to pull the hard line off the car to upgrade it to a -6 or a 3/8 line, because the factory 5/16 one's not big enough for the sniper kit. So what we're going to do now, I'll run through the list of bits and pieces that we used to put the sniper on the 202, because it was a bit of a mix match of Holley, ice, and then second generation sniper. And I'm going to chuck on a little blanking plate to get rid of the fuel pump, so that side of things is done. Then we're going to pop it up in the air and get the fuel sender unit out of the tank. We've drained the tank. We'll get the fuel sender unit out, and that way we can have a look at modifying the pickup to go from a 5/16 to a 3/8. And then we'll measure up, and through the week I'll order some aluminium hardline and some fittings. The sniper comes with a braided nylon line for the throttle body, so we'll get that out and show you what's in that as well. But yeah, so what we've got as far as the main unit goes is the Sniper 2300 kit. It's the Ford kit, which matches up to the Holley 350 base plate pattern. So that's the first gen Sniper 1, because they don't do the 2-barrel on a Sniper 2. And that came with its own harness, and the harness included the fuel pump relay, which is just up on the back firewall there, main fuse and the relay. So that plugs into the loom coming out of the back of the sniper, powers the fuel pump up. It also runs over to the battery to power the sniper unit up itself. That you could have run it like that with whatever distributor you want and wired it all in, used some relays, done your own wiring, all good, it'll work, it'll run. We had a fairly worn out old distributor on the car, so Holley MSD don't make anything for a red motor, 6-cylinder red motor that'll work with the sniper. So a guy down in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, makes billet distributors to suit Holden, Ford, Chrysler, blah blah blah. So that's the iceignition system, and it also has underneath the dash, which you saw me wire in, the iceignition module. Now this one is specifically for the sniper. It's got no timing control whatsoever. That's all done by the ECU of the sniper. We've got up under there our ignition box and the wiring harness going through to the engine bay, and then the ignition coil one goes to the other side of the car, inside and out the firewall down onto the ignition coil that comes with the iceignition system. So that's the ignition system side of things sorted. It's their coil, their distributor, cap, leads and module. And they also make it, if you get the kit to suit the sniper, they make a small patch harness, which makes it damn easy to hook up. So this one here is the one coming out of the distributor, and then they supply this little patch harness with a blank end. So if you don't have one, you have to buy a Deutsch crimp tool, and we had to wire that plug there into the loom that goes to the sniper main plug at the back down there. Where are we? Get a light. So that main plug down there with the looms coming out of it goes to battery, also goes to fuel pump and ignition system. So that was nice and straightforward. So that all got done. And then from there, we ran that 7-pin terminal connector under the dash so that it can run the 3.5-inch LCD display unit that's going to set the sniper up. But we also ran it over to what we've got on the inner fender over here. That's a Holley Sniper PDM power distribution module. Now that is for the Series 2 sniper. So if you get a Gen 2 sniper, comes with the harness, the loom, plugs straight into the back of the throttle body like this one does, but then it's got terminated wires and harness to go out to then go over to there, as well as to your fuel pump, thermofans, yada 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 from there. So what we've spent the last few days doing, or last couple of weeks, but it's a day here, a day there, is making the Sniper 1 harness fit to the PDM. Really pretty simple when you get your head around it. The fuel pump side of things just stays as it is. The trigger, which is why we've got this relay down here, that trigger there is your coil positive that was on the original ignition coil. Now, being a points dizzy in the Torana originally, that was resisted down below 12 volts. So we used that as a trigger to trigger the relay, and then that has fused power going straight to the trigger system on the PDM. The PDM is hardwired to the battery, and then you just use your triggers and everything in the Sniper instruction manual to wire it up. But instead of going to the units that they're going to power, they go to the PDM. And Holley's wiring diagram is actually really simple. It's yeah, so touch wood, when we power it all up, it works. But we've put the battery on it this morning just to have a run through, because everything was hooked up by the fuel pump. The green light powers up on the module at the top, which says the system has got power, it's on, and there's no faults. When you turn the key on, that comes on, turn the key off, that goes off. The other thing that also comes on is the little signal light, or the blue LED on the front of the iceignition system comes on. It stays on, so I've got to call the guys at ICE on Monday just to double check that that is right, because all the other wiring, all the pinouts on the PDM and everything turn on when they're supposed to, off when they're supposed to. The trigger wires and everything, it's doing what it's supposed to. There is just nothing that mentions that that light comes on when the battery's powered up. So I just want to confirm before we go too much further. And yeah, that's really it. Anyone looking for an ignition system, whether they're going to run a Sniper or a Carby or whatever, for an Australian car, or even Cleveland's, Windsor's, American stuff as well, the guys at ICE are really helpful. Matt down there is fantastic, good customer service over the phone, and always gets back to you. So Andy's wiring diagrams are pretty spot on too, and all the product fits really well. So between that and the Sniper, can't really fault it so far as install goes. We'll see what happens when it powers up and has to start learning stuff, see if it's a me error or product error. But as far as I can tell, we've got no exhaust leaks, we've got no vacuum leaks, because we did have it running with the Carby and the old distributor to start with. That's why I ran it with that setup, because if it runs good with a Carby and good with the original ignition system, technically it can't run worse with the EFI and the ignition system that we've put in. If they're operating how they're supposed to and everything gets set up how it's supposed to, and I don't screw up any of the wiring, then technically it should run as good or better. I'm going to finish my coffee, pop you guys up on the stand, and we'll get some tools and get this fuel pump off. Okay. Right, so we've got that all blocked off. Now we've got to try and work out roughly how many meters of hard line we're going to need. So if I go from there to there, that's 500. Which goes past the original. 500. $500, $800. So a metre gets us to about here. And then from there to so 3 metres gets us to the corner of the chassis. Yep, so that's 3 metres to the end, 3 metres of hard line. Then we're going to start having some fittings and barbs. 3. That will mainly be flex up around up into there. Three and a half. So we need about 7 metres. 7 metres of hard line would, turn that off for a sec. So 7 metres of hard line would pull it up. That'll get you supply and return. All right, I'll go write that down. Right, so it's probably going to be pretty hard for you guys to see in here, but I need to get this sender out. It's hard enough for me to see. So I can then see if I can get this hard line in it taken out and a 3/8 one soldered in, or silver soldered, sorry. See if we can get this flex line off. The fuel's not. Come on. Oh. I might just cut that. Save bending anything. Where's my snips? Hopefully all the fuel came out of there when I drained it. Most of it came out of there, I suppose. It's not too much. Okay. All right, now we'll tap that lock ring across. It should come out because we did clean this tank out when he first bought it. Yeah. Gotta go more. Come on. Nearly. There we go. I think. All right. So now, grab the rag and hopefully that comes out with the diff housing in the way. Which way? Okay. Oh, it was a lot easier with the tank on the floor. I can't see nothing. Ooh, what's this? Take this collar off. Now, it's close. Or do we put it that way? There. I'm going to have to let the hoist down a little bit. I'm too short. Right, so we got the fuel sender unit out. It's going to need a little bit of a repair to the fuel level sender unit. It's got a little check strap or an earth that goes to the pipe that's come unsoldered, or we may just grab a new one from Rare Spares. I'm pretty sure they had them down on the shelf when I went there on Saturday. So we might grab a new one. I just didn't want to cut a new one up straight away and silver solder a pipe in it, but if we have to, we have to. So yeah, so sending unit's going to have that hard line modified to a 3/8. Now what Holley gives you when you buy the Sniper is you've got, what are there here, three of the -6 to 3/8 male barbs and a single bulkhead fitting. I need to grab a second bulkhead fitting, and I need another 2 of the barbs, and then I need to grab 7 meters, like I was saying, of the alloy hardline. They give you bucket loads of 3/8 high pressure EFI hose. I'm not running a soft line the whole way up the car. Roadworthy in Australia, you can't have that much hardline under the car, and I'm not going to run that, but that's going to be good enough for where we go from chassis rail to the engine, and also under the car from fuel filter to fuel pump and fuel filter to tank. There's a whole heap of high pressure EFI clamps. We've got the external fuel pump with the male barb fittings and the brackets to mount it to the floor, a pre-filter and a post-filter for each side of the pump, and that's pretty much it, all self-contained. So there's only a few bits and pieces I've got to grab. The other things we've got here are the 5-inch dash and 3.5-inch dash. That's what's going to have to be final wired inside the car. Oh, not even wired, just plugged in. So that'll happen when I've got the fuel system done and I can drop it down on the floor. So I'm going to call it a night, clean up, and tomorrow morning when I get back to work, I'm going to order all those bits that we're missing. And that should be, if I can think of it properly, that should be the last bits we need to buy for this thing. Get them bent up, mounted up, and it's ready for the initial start and tune. So here's hoping, fingers crossed. All right, night guys, see you tomorrow. Okay, so everything we've ordered for the fuel system's arrived. So what we're going to do this time is we've got our tubing straightener. We've got about 25 feet of 3/8 aluminium fuel line, plus the flex line that came with the sniper kit. We've got the lubricant and sealant for the threads on the AN fittings. Fuel pump, that's all the stuff that came with the sniper. This is what we had to go through VPW to add, because in the instructions they say they want you to run a fuel pressure gauge to monitor pressure. They don't give you anywhere to put it, they don't give you the gauge. So we've got a liquid filled one from VPW in black to match the sniper. What's this one here? It's a -6 fitting with the 1/8 NPT fitting for the gauge to go into. We've got another bulkhead fitting to go with that one because of what I want to run up in the engine bay where the supply and return lines go, and a few more straight barbs. And these ones here are for our aluminium fuel line. They're a 3/8 fuel line to -6 AN fitting. So kind of like a compression fitting for your plumbing in your house. You've got your brass olive, slides on the alloy tubing, and then you do him up, and hopefully it's a fuel tight seal. So, and they're rated to the pressure that the sniper goes to, or more. We've got our tubing cutter, alloy spanner, and the vice jaws to go in the vice to hold the fittings. Mick has gone through and put in a 3/8 return and a 3/8 pickup into the standard Holden Torana pickup. So that's going to go in now, and we've got our fuel pump to run under there, plus the pre and post filters. So I'm going to make a coffee. We're going to have a quick look underneath and see where we want to route this stuff, and we're going to throw the sender unit in, and then from there we'll start cutting and bending some tube. So hopefully we're not far off. Okay, so we're ready to make our first pipe up. So what we've got up in here, in the dark, we've got our sender unit and pickup back in. We've got our original supply line removed all the way through to the engine bay, and we've mounted our fuel pump up on the lower control arm pod up against the floor. So we're going to try and drop the 2 alloy lines down the side of that upper trailing arm pod and have one go to the pump and one go out to the outer rail and down for the return, and up, over and down. So I'm going to roll out about 300 mil of alloy pipe. We'll straighten it out and we'll see if we can make something that fits in there, and put the first filter in there as well, the pre-filter. So here we go. Okay, so we want roughly 300 mil of that. There. Doesn't have to be exact because I allowed for a little bit extra. So we'll cut that. And give these rollers a clean on, because the original ones had a whole lot of body tar on there, which is now just transferring to everything. Cool. Alright, so there's that one. Give our pipe a clean up. Now, cool. Make it round again after the cutter's gone through it. So now, we're supposed to lube this thing up, aren't we? Okay, so a smarter person would have actually left that pipe longer and straightened the whole section, but this will work because it doesn't have to be super straight. And that's not. You know what? That's good enough for what we're doing. So now we've got to work out where the bends are going to go and what we're going to do to connect this to the pickup in the tank. That's a little beading tool to go inside the alloy pipe. If we back that off, that should feed down in there. And we can swell it and put a little bit of a bead in it, just have the hose slide on. Supposed to anyway. Come on. There is supposed to be for that size. That's better. So what we do is take the burrs off, lube it a little bit. So we've backed that out. Clean the burr off, lube it up again. Pop him down in. And then we tighten up the intake line. inlet one, whatever it is. Where are we here? 14 is that one. 12 is that one. So we just give it a half turn. And then we turn him. Well, no, we don't. Too tight. Cool. That's putting a little bead in there. The little ball races inside there pushed out and have flared it. Go half turn more. And just keep going until you're happy with the flare you got on there. A little bit at a time. Till the tool bottom's out. Then we back it out. Suppose let's put a flare on there. We'll have a look and see. I was hoping for something a little bit of a bigger flare, but we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so kind of hard to see on the alloy, but we've got the flare bent on both ends. And I stopped and had to think about it. It's the low pressure side, so it's on the suction side. So I'm happy enough with that. That's going to go there. We'll put a couple of EFI fuel clamps on the hose when we connect it. We've measured up and marked our first bend, and now we're going to pop it in our bender and see if we can't work out how to get this to start. Alright, I want it, where are we? Here. And I want the bend to start where I marked it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I just want to see, I didn't mark which end was down. I'm an idiot. Hang on. Alright, lucky we checked. It's the shorter end I want. So we're going to pop him in there. Put the mark I've made at the 0. Or just before. Now we'll take it round slowly, because I'm not sure how much of a bend we want to put on there to make it clear the floor. The long side is going to go down to our fuel pickup at the tank with a piece of flex line joining that on. We'll put enough flex line on there so that that comes up and rests on the top of the tunnel. That rolls over and points down, and then that goes to our first pre-filter with a short length of rubber hose on it as well, and that's clamped to the pod where the upper trailing arm bracket is. We've got our flares on both ends, and we've indexed it so it follows the angle that it's supposed to. And it's going to sit up in here when I can get a torch in there and actually give you guys some light. Alright, so I'm going to cut myself a couple of pieces of hose. This time I'll try and make the measurements a little bit more accurate, and we'll get it mounted up there and show you what we got. Right, so that's taken a long time, but we've got fuel pump mounted and flex line up to the pre-filter that's going up to the hard line above the floor. Across that hard line up there has been P-clipped front and back, and then it goes down to the sender pickup. I've got a straight piece of pipe here that I measured up for the return. We've run it through the straightener, and I've also got a piece of welding wire that I've mapped out roughly where I want the return line to go up over the diff in that fiddly little spot, because it's just a nightmare to get your hand into. It's the right length as well, so what I'm going to do is take that piece of welding wire, mark it out on the alloy, and that first piece of aluminium we're going to cut there, and that way what I'm going to do, because it is the return and there should be zero pressure in the return if everything's set up right, along this sill where we're running the return, in the straight section I'm going to run a join. That way I'm working in 2 lengths of aluminium pipe, because there's only me and there's a whole lot of junk under this Torana that I can't dodge around, and I don't know, first time bending hard lines, and it's not that easy. So I'm going to cut a section so it's easier to work with, bend that one piece and have it join in that middle. So I'll pop these up on the stand and we'll keep going. Straight enough for what we're doing. Now, if I take our welding wire and I'll use the straightener as a bit of a clamp so I can see what I'm doing. Actually, if we use our brain and go a straight little wire, I'll go just past it. There. That's where we're going to make our cut. Pod cut. gonna bead the end of it again like we did on the pickup. And I'll do that before we start, because once the bead's in there, we can bend it and keep going. If I can hold it. There we go. And these fittings with the hose clamps on the return and on the suction side of the pump are more than enough, even on an EFI system, because if it's set up properly, there should be less than 3 psi. There should actually be 0 psi in the return, because there should be no restrictions to the flow. And that's why you're using the same size supply and return. So we are good for this, and it makes it a hell of a lot easier for me to handle it when it's only about 1 metre long. Keep going. One more. That's that one beaded. Clean that up. And we'll do the other side. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so that's both done. Clean him out. Okay, so now we're ready to see if we can work out how and where these first initial bends are going to go. I'm going to go and try and copy that template, and I'll get this back in once I've either made a mess of it or it works. Alrighty. Right, so I totally mucked up the first attempt at that return bend, but I've got it right now. Now I'm going to try and put one of these fittings together for the return line where it I'll concentrate here, while it goes up underneath the floor. So this is the front half of the return, and we're going to run a compression fitting on there, so that way we can put a barb on it to join up to the bulkhead that's going to be in the engine bay. So we've got a bit of sealant and lube on the thread so it doesn't gall the fitting, and we've got our brass olive on there. Now it should seat. There we go. Make sure that's seated on the olive. These always sketch me out. I'd never know how tight to flame and take these things. Should be it. Dropping stuff everywhere. Oh. I've never used it on a alloy line before. I've only ever done braided fittings, and they normally wind up till they seat. So this feels like it's seated. See if I can just give it a little bit more. Oop. No, I think that's pretty much it. It is only an alloy thread, so right. Okay, so that's one fitting done, and that's the intermediate section to go underneath the floor. Yeah, looks tight. And now we'll put a bit of sealant on that thread. put our barb on it. Okay. Both of those done. Clean up the excess sealant. Without putting it everywhere. And we'll take it up under the car and we'll show you under there. Okay, so we're going to wrap the video up here for tonight. We'll probably wrap the entire video up. This one's really patchy. We've been doing some electrical, we've been doing some plumbing, and yeah, it's just a messy video. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll show you where we're at, and then I'll get you back in when we've actually had a chance to finish it all off, because this whole bending pipe stuff, it's, yeah, interesting. Interesting to do, but consider I've never done it before, it's a challenge. So we've got our, get the light here so you can see, we've got our sender unit in, like I showed you just before, the supply and return up over the tunnel, down, and we're down to our pre-filter and our fuel pump. Our return line tucks over there where the original supply line was. That's where we've made the join just there, and then it runs down along the sill in the factory clamps, across and in front of the transmission crossmember. That's come up here to a barb fitting. That is going to get a flex line going from there up just under the booster, and under the booster we're going to run a bulkhead fitting with a barb on it, and that's going to be where the return line comes from the sniper back down and runs to the back. Beside it we're going to run another bulkhead fitting, and that's where we're going to take our hard line off for the supply. It's going to come down beside that return line, over the cross member again, and then from there it's going to, this is where the Torana gets really confined for space. We might tuck it up in the transmission tunnel. I'll see if I've got a light here. So we're going to probably bring it across the front of the transmission tunnel and up in, and then hug the transmission tunnel down along the side of the tail shaft, and then around here to there. So that'll keep it up out of the way, because there's not a lot of room under the car, and there's no room to put a second one out where the return line is. So I'll probably do that, and that'll keep it out of the way and nothing will get damaged. Yeah, and then we'll just plumb that from the bulkhead fitting across to the gauge and to the sniper. So then it will just be running that power line down to the pump, the earth to the pump, and then it's a case of running through the whole startup procedure. So that might be where we get you guys back in, because the rest of this stuff is just fiddly and me trying to learn how the heck this stuff actually works. So thanks for watching. See you next time, and hopefully the next one will actually have something that's a bit more interesting than me just breaking stuff and learning how to bend pipe. Okay, see you later. Bye.